Hey guys, how's it going? It's 10 p.m. on Friday night, and just hearing my son, right?
Hello.
Hello. That's him. So. Oh, this is. Oh, good. No, I want to go into the YouTube here. I got it paused. That's a good sign. But I want my comments. Jesus, Murphy. Do I have to go to my channel? Sorry, guys. Give me a second. I gotta find the damn chat. They never make anything easy. It's like, just show me something that I'm sure that it's there. It's just they never tell you how to do it. Okay. Awesome. Okay, now we can pop out the chat. We can get rid of that. Put that. We'll put that over here somewhere, and then maybe I'll stretch it out a bit here. Okay. Perfect. I hate this white color scheme. I want to go back to the old black. I like it much better. What's this? Oh, goody.
Makes my eyes pop out. It's like, whoa.
No, I like the
black color scheme?
Yeah. Okay, so let me go to Google Sheets here. I was going to program originally, but then I realized sometimes the best way of figuring out the formulas you want to do is playing around with formulas in a sheet or a controlled environment. It's one of the easiest ways to do it. So I'm going to start a new spreadsheet here. And I'll position it a little bit just so that I can, this is so I can see the chat if you guys have any questions or whatever. Or if you want to say hi, or I don't even know who's here. I hate this white. Ugh. I used to like it when I had it black. I think I can still do it. But then I have to get everything. So this I can do, but it's the chat that I'm not too sure. Oh well, I'll leave the chat that, but I am going to take this to that. See, it looks too bright with this thing now. Either that or my TV's looking brighter. Maybe it's my TV's looking brighter.
Yeah, I think it might be the
it's the brightness. It's too high.
Yeah, I think it's the monitor. Or TV, I guess.
TV, yeah.
I call it the monitor.
Well, the whole thing is just blah. Okay. I'd like to. Hey, let's see if I can change it. Send feedback. Just give me a second, guys. Now. Okay. Well, we'll deal with that. And then we'll go something like that with yellow. Oh, that's better. Once you get the highlight out, then it's not so bad. I'm going to call this Waybill. I'll call it Waybill generator.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
This is what
I was going to say Waybill procedure, but
well, the reason why I love using well, first of all, a couple things. I'll show you this too, and this is first off the random number. We'll times to 100. Okay. Well, that's not what I wanted. How come I didn't? Oh, okay. Never mind. It's been a while. Times 100. Oh, and then I have to. Never mind. I have to. I gotta integer it. So integer a random number times 100, and there we go. So when you're doing a random number, of course, and you are having this is, for example, I hate to use run 8, but this is where patterns will start developing. And this, I think I've shown this before. But what happens is, with the random number generator, that typically, that is not a true random number, what you're seeing. You can pick a random number, but you have to do it in such a way that you're actually picking the data out of it. Otherwise, you're going sequential, and you'll start seeing patterns form. I could graph this, I could do all kinds of things with this. This is what most programmers fail to realize, or those who don't quite understand the true nature of random numbers and random generation, what I effectively refer to as the bingo ball picker in Run 8, where it selects trains. But see all the 4s and the 3s and 6s? Can you see the pattern there, Emmett?
Not really, no.
No? Okay. Maybe I need to go with something.
I might just have to make it up.
Well, let's go with 10. Let's see how this works.
Yeah, I think.
Hold on, no, hold on. We haven't even done it yet. Hold on. Oh. It's howling time.
I see a pattern of that. There's two zeros in a row.
No, not so much the zeros in the row. See where the 7s are coming up?
Yeah.
And then the 8s? See how the 8s?
Yeah.
See how that's the patterns I'm talking about. The 7s are very noticeable. And some people may not even notice that and say, well, whoopee-doo. They'll just see this, it looks like a bunch of random numbers to them. It's fair enough. And I'm just gonna, this is just a demonstration real quickly, and then I'm gonna get to the point of the work here. But the further you bring it out, no, let's go this way here. Alright. So, I'm going to put this here. I'll put it one more over this way. Okay. We're really getting into room now, which is cool. But in fact, it ran out of room. But I can add more columns. Well, let's just leave it at that for now, and I'll show you what I mean. Conditional formatting. Let's see, it's equal to 1. So you see the I'm trying to remember how it does it. I think it goes columns first. So there's, you see the spacing? Then there's, you know, it kind of separates itself, then it starts going, bunches up a little bit. But you see the bunches of 1s there? Like basically you work the way it does, as far as I'm aware. Google Chrome, or not Google Chrome, Google Sheets and most spreadsheet packages will start calculating the row. It does the columns first, as opposed to the rows. So it'll do all of A first, and it'll calculate. It's a timing. And because the computer, what happens is a random number generator basically picks from the computer clock, and that's why it comes up with that funny number. You saw it earlier where it was like 0.12, you know, whatever the hell it is. All the random function does is pull basically it pulls a fraction of the number 0 to 1 after so many bits from the system, the CPU clock, in milliseconds. And that's how it determines it. But when you're thinking about how fast a computer operates and calculates, these are where the patterns start coming in. See the 2s? It's happening over here too. It's happening here. You start seeing it. Look how diverse the 3s are. They bunch up a little bit, but then, you know,
also there's this big spot where there's nothing.
Yeah. See how they came all together? Did you see that?
Yeah.
But now they come together. You see the pattern?
Yeah.
That's more spread out. The 5s are more spread out a bit. Those are all over the place. But you see what I mean? It's not the 7s more spread out. You're not getting a whole, like, in other words, you're not getting a bunch together and then it's just, see, and that's kind of more on the right, and I can't prove it because I can't say this is how exactly how many milliseconds happens in between and blah blah blah, but that's basically how it does it. So you can't use this, you can't use a Google sheet and a bunch of random functions at the same time to be able to do it. This is only good for testing unless you're copying and pasting. When you're copying and pasting, then so if I was to copy and paste, I copy and paste a lot slower. I'm not going to even waste my time copying and pasting that many numbers. But if I was to use Control-C and Control-V, I'm a lot slower. Even if I do it as fast as I can, I'm a lot slower than the computer. I'll get more of a random result. So if I go like this, and I can't do it nearly as fast, but if I go, see how I'm pasting?
Yeah.
But look at now. What's happening?
It's much different.
But look at the first 2 columns. You see there's 4 in between, now there's 7 in between. You're getting, this is much more of a random result. Here you're still seeing a lot of patterns forming. But every time I hit Control-V, it recalculates. But see, look at this. Look at this one. Look right there. See that? It kind of looks like Tetris. But these I have not copied and pasted. These are still doing the same old function. And actually, because I'm Control-C'ing and Control-V'ing, yeah, I can apply the value. Like if I go like this and see, I get 6, 9, 8, 8, 0, 9, 8, 6. That's a random number. There's a lot of 9s.
And 6s.
Yeah, 8, 7s. That, you know, there's a lot of 7s. I mean, if I was to do out of 100, maybe that would be a more random value. Like how many? I guess doing it out of 100 would be probably a little bit better. But let's say I was to. I don't want to do this because I'm wasting.
50 might work. 50 might work pretty well.
But see, there now. Did I get 2 8s in a row?
Yeah.
That's tough to do. Not
Yeah,
impossible.
You're rarely.
There's another 8.
Yeah.
Now this is me hitting Control V. So see, now I'm changing the pattern of when I hit, like I'm not hitting at the same time. Like if I go, no, that's not. Like I got to give it time to. Look at it. See how the 80s?
Yeah.
So it's all has to do with the clock. See that? Look, because it's actually it has to do all that processing. I can get it. I can almost look at that. See how I'm getting the 80s? So what's happening is, if I even as a human, I can almost time it. It's almost like you're spinning the wheel or you're hitting it. You know, it's like this game show, Press Your Luck, where the little circle thing would come around. You could time it to a certain, or you pull. Or I used to play the game or play where you spin a wheel. You spin it a certain way. It's sort of like the Price is Right.
Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune, yeah, a perfect example. So you give a certain amount of force to try to get a predictable result. But that was what I was just doing there. But because it's doing so much calculation, it actually slows down the random process. So when you're calculating that many random numbers, then that's what happens. So anyways, let me get the conditional formatting out of there. That's why I wanted to show that. So you can't really, you can copy and paste a number and then apply it and then test it, but other than that you can't really use. You have to have the program reshuffle the deck and basically reseed. It has to be able to say no, slow down the processor or speed things up, and that's how I used to always do it. I would have it reshuffle every time that I picked a random number, because you have to basically reseed it. Otherwise, you're going to get the same results every time. And this is what happens where I've seen instances where I have hundreds of trains in a train list and run 8, and sure enough, it would pick the same 3 trains in a row coming out of Bakersfield. It's just like the odds of that happening are ridiculously, but it happened quite a bit because it's not true random. And if you look at engines and run 8, that's another one where you'll see the engine numbers look very similar a lot of times, or there's a pattern to them, like they'll be every 7 or 8 across every now and then. Not always, but I've seen the patterns. Anyways, let's forget about this random number stuff. I want to format. Let me get clear formatting. Nope, wrong one. I want to get the conditional formatting out of there. How do I get that one? Delete. I want to remove that rule. Conditional formatting. There should be a way to cancel it. Oh, okay. No, that doesn't work. And why is it? Oh, okay. Oh, hold on a second. Clear formatting? Yeah, that works. I think that got the conditional formatting out, hopefully. No, it didn't. Or did it just apply it? That's okay. No, that's totally wrong anyways. Okay. What the heck? I didn't say that. I said this. Why is it doing that? No, I don't want... Yikes! Okay. It's still doing the conditional formatting. Here, let's clear the formatting then. Hopefully that gets the conditional formatting done. So what I'll do is I'll go black. I'll go back with the yellow text again. We'll get rid of all of this. So what we're going to do now, instead of having it have a bunch of random numbers all over the place, we're going to put an A1. We're going to put one random value. So random, that explains what the formula does. It's a random number between 0 inclusive and 1 exclusive. So if you just did it like this, that's what it looks like. See that? That's how you can get it that finite of a call. So if you have a lot of waybills, you can really have a lot of things that's going on. So as I was telling Emmett, actually I'm going to get a drink. Can you give me a drink, buddy?
Yeah.
If you don't mind, please, so I can just stay here and explain. So, and because I'm just going to repeat what the story as I was telling it. So with RTS, there's a couple modules that I'm looking at. Originally, I was looking at dispatcher module. So dispatcher module, let's say if it was in the TD3, something like TD3, what ends up happening is you have a lot of assigned trains and lengths, and you can see the random number thing. Don't worry about that.
I forget how to open the new boxes.
What's that?
I forget how to open the new box.
Oh, did I use the last one earlier?
Yeah.
Okay, give me a second, guys. Okay. Are you gonna explain it to everybody?
I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about. I didn't realize what you were talking about.
You don't know what I was. You don't know what I'm talking about.
I had a brain fart for a second there.
I wasn't out of the big case yet, dude. There's a case.
Oh, I didn't see it.
I was gonna say I didn't go through that big case already. No, you have to get your hand in there and look. But anyways,
I don't like looking.
You don't like looking?
No, I usually miss things a lot. I go somewhere and I try to grab something, but I don't find it.
All right, so let me finish explaining this here. Just when I start talking, my voice starts going, so then I want something to drink, and of course, for some reason I drink water at work, but I don't drink water at home now, which is not good. So the dispatcher module with TD3, it would similar to TD3, assign trains and lengths. Well, the problem is I don't want that. I don't want trains that have an assigned train and length to it. In other words, I don't mind people actually modding any of this and have their own territories and want to do their own blocks and do their own things like that. But as far as the trains and lengths go, that's something that I would much rather yards and industries handle. So the yard and industries module, you watching this or are you watching me?
I'm watching what you're typing.
You're watching what I'm typing. That's what's on the screen over there, dude. I know I explained this to you.
I tried to figure out what you're typing so I could realize how to type while looking here.
Dude, you're not going to learn how to type by looking at how I'm typing on the keyboard. Okay. He's mesmerized by the fact that I can type so fast. If you want to learn how to type fast, there's programs. Look it up.
Ah, okay.
Try it. Maybe you might like it. There's games. There's all kinds of things you can do if you want to get your typing speed going. Yeah, you can really do it a lot. It's amazing what you can do once you learn to type. It's not like all the kids today. It's like it's texting. Tap. Yeah, exactly. Emmett just described it perfectly. Tap. That's all the kids do now. They know how to tap.
Actually, most of my kids.
But the aren't those keyboards similar to mine?
I don't get what you're talking about.
Well, when they do the tapping, aren't they tapping of a keyboard that's similar, like a visual keyboard?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so they have to know where the keys are.
No, they have to look to get it. Like, they usually actually get it wrong, too. So, like, tap, just get one button. It takes, like, forever.
Because my phone, you have to hit the, like, A, B, and C is in one number.
Your phone's very small.
Yeah, I know my phone's my phone's not a smartphone. Because I don't need a smartphone to be smart. Anyways, enough talking about today's wonderful smartphone and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, well. Don't worry, you'll have it soon enough, and then I'll be old. Well, I already am old. Or getting older. I'll always be older than you. So yard and industry modules. So anyway, so the yard and industry modules was great, and I thought, well, yeah, I can start there, because I was even talking about this the other night. And I was starting to think, because the yard and industry module, basically I want, for this one here, well, I should have moved it down here. I'll move this down way over here. And no, I'm not using this as a presentation. I'm actually going to start doing some formulas very shortly. So the whole thing with this is it's going to be AI or player controlled. The art and industry module, same thing. AI or player controlled. Similar to 2D top-down. Freight yard manager, yard duty, there's etc. I guess. So what you'd have is you'd either have a map or you would have an infinite scrollable 2D world. I'm kind of thinking about the infinite 2D world personally, because the more I think about it, I think it would be kind of cool to follow a train along, even on 2D scenery.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
It's not as cool as 3D.
3D would be like.
Well, 3D is awesome.
But 2D would just be kind of cool, like things like RT2 and stuff like that, or like Railroad Tycoon, like how they do that. That actually makes me interested just to watch the trains in that, like and stuff like that. That's something that I like want to do, but like,
yeah,
that part of it.
Yeah. But you like what you like the whole building of the stuff, and you like the tycoon side of things, though.
Yes, I'm like yes.
Yeah, I'm not going for the tycoon.
I know that. I'm just
you realize that the time that I was talking about doing the tycoon thing, that's gone. I'm not doing that. There's only so many ways I can go, and this is the way I'm going. I'm avoiding the tycoon. I was gonna do it at one time, and then I decided no, I need to simplify things a little bit, or else I'll never get to it. So yeah, I had the dispatcher module, and then I had the yard and industry modules, and then I realized my strength is RTS version 1 beta. So, for those of you who do not know what RTS version 1 beta is, I don't even know if you know, Emmett, what that is.
Beta wise, no.
Okay. What happened was RTS is the software that I have in Just Basic. Mm-hmm. That was used, if you recall, back in Run 8 version 1.
Oh, no.
Okay. It became obsolete once version 2 came along, and I never updated it. Nor am I planning on updating it for version 2. However, and I will say, however, I am willing to take any of the data and make it available for anybody to take it and do what they want with it. So what I mean by that is RTS version 1 beta was all about basically waybills. I guess you would say waybill or tag generation. So what it did was you would have a list of, I'm just trying to remember how the heck I had it set up. The way I had it set up, I believe, was that I had familiar trains. So a train, for example, might have on average would have, let's just say it would have 3 cars of this, 5 cars of this, 7 cars of this, 2 of this, 6 of that, 1 of that, 1 of that, 3 of this, blah 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 blah, etc., etc. What I did was I took shoot, not that. I'm not even sure where I'm at here. Am I at 17? So H to P7, H to O17. So sum of H17 colon O17. What I did is I had it, and this did it for every one. It listed every train that could possibly be created from top to beginning and had familiar blocks to them. And what it then did was, for the total number of potential average waybill calls, it would randomly generate and literally do a random generation of the total number, picking something out of that. And what ended up happening was you had realistic, random yet familiar consists. So your trains would still look like this because the random generator was efficient. It wasn't always that way. Originally I fell into the trap of not being random enough. And as you're running code and you're running lines of code, and this is why I did this whole exercise at the beginning with the random numbers, is even when you're programming and you have a random number pick and then you have a bunch of lines of code, then you have another, go back and you pick another number, what happens is it starts developing patterns, because the way the computer is so fast, it will actually keep picking that random number at the same spot on the computer cycle. So you have to mix it up. Eventually I got to that point, and I started slowing the program down a little bit and being able to do a few things, and that's what helped. So it's kind of like shuffling the deck and reshuffling after every random number. So it actually had a nice distribution. You didn't have you did have familiarity, but the thing was, every now and then you'd have a little bit more, a little bit less. Sometimes you'd have the same. That's nice and all, and the familiarity is great when you're building trains from a starting location that is a familiar train. So that was great, and what that did was that data was then exported into an XML file, and it was able to spawn into Run 8. So you were able to actually spawn custom-made. It ran the program, it created all the trains for you, they were all there. Now version 2, one of the unfortunate things was we lost a lot of the file access in version 2, and that was for security reasons. So when we lost the file access, what ended up happening was we couldn't access certain files, such as the track database. The track database I didn't use until Ski found out a way of predicting how long each track section would be. And by being able to find that, I used to survey it by going in and spawning a train in a certain area, and then I would be able to tell how long certain track sections were. But he was able to use the track database, and that's how some of the latest versions of RTS version 1 beta was actually edited by Ski, with his procedures going in and picking up some really cool track database data. Unfortunately, we didn't get that in version 2. What we did get, fortunately though, and what could have worked, was we still had access to the XML file. And from what I hear, despite whatever bridges I burned, apparently the XML file was left open so that it was able to do RTS. That's what I hear. I don't know if it's true, but I hear that's why the XML was left open, so that RTS was still potentially compatible, but it would require a new change because the XML file format had changed, so it rendered it obsolete, and I never went around changing it for one specific reason, and that was the AI. The AI and their generation did something, plus the AI, you couldn't spawn created trains into the AI. You could spawn trains and then manually AI them, but that just took a lot out, especially in a high capacity railroad, so it was too much. So that's basically what you did. So it created tags, loads, empties, various things, and all that stuff. That's great when you're wanting to spawn a train at a start point out of nowhere. And the idea is that point is coming into the world, and it's coming into the world, and it's basically, you know, it came from somewhere, but we don't know where it came from, and we don't really care, but we know what it kind of looks like, so we know what the cars look like. It's kind of like Train 330. Mm-hmm. You can tell by looking at Train 330 a lot of times because of all the tank cars on it. And what I'm mentioning to Emmett, he knows what 330 looks like. Train 330 is a train that goes through Niagara, that comes from Sarnia. 331 is its counterpart. The reason why there's so many tank cars is because there's so many refineries in Sarnia, and we found that out through some more exploration on our own, some of our trips. I always thought that it went to the States. I didn't realize Sarnia had so many refineries on the Canadian side, so I always thought it went over to Port Huron, Michigan, but apparently not. But the funny thing is, I think I'd been to Sarnia once before that, and I just didn't really get to see it. I went to the tunnel, but maybe it was Windsor. I'm not too sure. Windsor.
You did go to the Windsor Tunnel.
Well, I know I've been to the Windsor Tunnel many times, but it was just weird. Wow, I'm still losing my voice. I try. So that's great and all, like I said, and of course at some point you're going to have to come into an area, and you know you're going to have to limit unless you're planning on doing the world of rails and have everything. And I know we're not getting to the programming part here, which is kind of what I want to do. We're not quite there yet, but we got to get there. I have to kind of set this up a certain way in order for us to get further, and I'm going to expand on this as we go on. So RTS version 1 beta is great, but that's just has one purpose, and that is to spawn trains and to run 8 into a region, and that's it. And that's not the way I'm going this time. But this is still the idea that I need to make this work, then to make that work. The dispatcher module is not going to have assigned trains and lengths because the yards are going to build them. However, in order for the yards to build them and require cars and to see that demand or supply of cars come in, something has to be generating the waybills. And it's not going to be generating trains just coming magically into the world, although in some cases that may be coming into portals. These areas, these locations are actually going to be real locations. So this time around I'm going to create a bunch of waybills that is potentially going to be any industry, either online or offline, and that will determine whether or not a train online or offline will be able to do it. It'll also be adaptable to a model railroad or anything, including Run 8 or any other simulator that you want to apply it to, because that data would be available. And then from there you can decide what you want to do with it. So, wow, that was a lot, huh?
Yeah.
Do you get all that, or did I lose you?
You lost me at some times, but I got most of it.
Okay. So instead of an RTS, we're looking at the RTS waybill generator, and this is what I need to concentrate. So that makes all the rest possible. That's going to allow stuff. And this is where I was, and believe me, I've been thinking these things out. So even though I haven't got to coding yet, I have been thinking about how I want to do things. I already know how to do the AI. It's not a question of can I not do the AI. Now, as I said the other day, this dispatcher module, I know how to do the AI because I've dispatched long enough that I can get at least a pretty damn good AI dispatcher. It's not rocket scientist. All it is following procedures. This is also something that I haven't prototyped yet, but I'm looking to try to prototype it. That's kind of what I wanted to get into if I was going to do it, but that's when I realized, as I was thinking about how I wanted to bring in the data, how am I going to bring the data in? And then I realized, well, wait a minute, I need to work on the data first. And what better way of doing it than let's start with the data. So this is why we're here. So we're not doing the dispatch module, we're not doing the yard and industry modules, we're working on the data and how we want to do it. So goodbye that. We know what 3 modules are coming to RTS eventually. And they're not going to be fancy, it's all going to be about the data. And that's what I'm good at. So might as well use my strengths, right? So here's what I was thinking as far as what one particular way of looking at it. You can have the so you understand what a waybill is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So a waybill has you have a shipper, a consignee. So, and then you have a commodity, or in our case, it won't necessarily be the commodity. I may not even worry about the commodity, quite frankly.
Well, you could just, well,
you can, you can, but normally what we're looking at here is car type. So a shipper basically needs a certain empty of a car type, and it gets forwarded to the consignee. How it gets to the consignee is dependent upon the network, and the network would be the connections. So with a shipper and consignee, now the cool part about this is very easy to prototype on 1 yard module. It gets more complicated when those modules become part of a network. But for now, that's going to be pretty easy for me to set up a shipper, consignee, and a car type. Because then I can decide, okay, well, it's coming to a yard, it's always coming to this yard, what am I going to do with it? So really, it's not too far away to actually get into that, at least prototype a yard module, do an AI module, and figure it out. But I want to go a little bit further than that. So you have a shipper and consignee and car type. The shipper, for example, could be, and let's put them up here. We'll put them up as fields. So fields are basically where the data comes into play. Instead of going it this way, because then what happens there is I can go a little bit further. So you got the shipper, you got the consignee. I'm going to go CT for car type because at that point it's not as required. Now, this can get into, you can either go into codes or you can go into a description in a code or whatever. Back in the old days, you used to use codes a lot because then they would key and then they'd key into text files, but it really doesn't matter. You can match whatever you need to match nowadays, so it doesn't matter. So say for example the shipper, I don't know, he let's say the shipper is make a company name. You got the imagination, Emmett. Oh, come on.
I've been playing so much.
You don't even know what it. Think of a company that ships something. What would they ship?
Worldwide shipping. I don't know.
Worldwide shipping. Okay. Well, all right. Worldwide shipping.
I don't know. I came up with that.
Well.
Should I come up with the real one?
Worldwide. Well, no, that's okay. But think of a commodity, like, okay, so I have a machinery. I work at a machinery company.
Oh, commodity?
No. You don't have to think of that so much, but think of a company. Like, what do companies do?
Like companies do.
Like you got auto plants. You got a box car, something that makes tools. How about Bob's Tools?
Bob's, yeah, okay.
Bob's, okay, so Bob's Tool Supply.
Bob's
okay.
Tool Shed would be better, but okay.
Whatever. I asked you to.
Home Depot. The consignee could be Home Depot.
Yeah, very good. No, that's awesome. Exactly. Very good. I was thinking along the same lines myself. So, Bob's Tool Supply, of course, that would be in a different location. So you can get into shipper codes, all kinds of different things at that point. In fact, what happens is, this is why the codes are used often, because yeah, Bob's Tool Supply may be. There might be a couple locations for Bob's Tool Supply. But in this case, let's say Bob's Tool Supply in I don't know, Huntsville, Alabama. And then I don't know if does Home Depot supply by rail so much?
Sometimes it does.
Really?
Yeah. There's some places.
I've never heard of a Home Depot that has a rail line going into it.
I think there's 4 in the world. I can't remember.
Where are you getting that from?
I searched rail lines to companies, and I thought I saw Home Depot.
Home Depot?
I've
never seen a rail line going into Home Depot. It's a good idea. Hey, it's a good idea. How about we try something else then? But no, it's a good idea. I like it. In our world, hey, Home Depot could take Bob's Tool Supply. I was going to use a wood, but let's say
a wood one.
Bob's Tool Supply. Let's say
Detroit, Michigan.
Okay, well that's fine. Trent, Michigan.
Detroit, Michigan. I said.
Oh, Detroit, Michigan. Okay, so Bob's Tool Supply in Huntsville, Alabama. They really like Bob's tools. But it's not Home Depot. Let's say
Fred's house.
Let's say oh, I don't know. I was gonna say General Motors.
GM would take it.
you know, maybe they need tools.
Good point.
You know what I mean? But let's go with something else.
Yeah, GM would probably take it. But
Let's
it
say
wouldn't be all the time.
let's say I don't know.
Let's just come up with that.
How about Mama's Machinery?
What the?
I don't know. Who said Detroit? Let me think.
Detroit. Oh,
What?
Steel City Tools. I don't know. I just came up with that. Is that Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
That's Pittsburgh.
Huh?
That's Pittsburgh. Isn't
Well,
it?
it's a good idea.
Motor City Tools.
You can call them Motor City Machine Guns.
That's what came to my mind.
Oh,
That's
jeez.
when I was thinking of Detroit. That's what came to my mind.
Okay. All right. Let's get serious though. We gotta get cracking on this. It's 10:51 Eastern. This is getting boring. Yeah, I know. It's a lot to think about. That's why you gotta think about these things. Okay, just I don't know. Instead of Bob's, let's call it
Randy's.
Detroit Manufacturing Supply in Detroit. I know Master Supply. We're called Master Supply in Detroit, Michigan. So what happens is the car type. This is an actual code that there is a one letter. There's a letter prefix, and I was actually using these in RTS 1 beta. I was actually using those codes for a while there, and then I don't think I stuck with it, or yeah, maybe I did towards the end. I think I was still using those codes. Now, so what happens there is at some point a waybill is going to be called for Bob's Tool Supply to call up you know, the Master Supply. There's a lot of ways you can do. One of the best and easiest ways, and I've read books of how to operate your model railroad, railroad's operation and realistic operation, or whatever the heck it's called. So I've really gone into a lot of the various things like card systems, computer systems, etc. I've had various software that I've liked. There's certain software that's inspired me to think about these things, but I still really feel, as far as the ideas that are coming, that how I want to do it. Oh, yeah. But so what's going to happen in this case here? I don't want it just to randomly pick a bunch of things. So let's say we got the names there. In some cases, a waybill might be called for some tanks. I'm just trying to remember the various codes.
A for auto rack, maybe?
Yeah, but I don't want to get in. I don't want to get into the auto rack so much. I could.
G for gondola?
Yeah, I think we can do that too. So, so in some cases you can have a one-to-many, what they call a one-to-many relationship, where
oh, H for hopper. Forgot about that. H for hopper. Forgot about that.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, okay. But that's okay. Let's just start with that. I'm not worried about that. I got a whole whack of them. I can go back to the data and do it. So Randy's recycling. I know. Randy's recycling in say for. So you basically got a gondola where Randy takes in all this recycling and builds a bunch of other stuff in I don't know.
Something in Utah, I feel like it. That's what I feel like for some reason.
Okay, Salt Lake City, Utah, let's say. Okay. So
I just felt like it.
okay, all right. I don't want to get to this. I don't want to get it too much into specifics or worry about. Now, I did that 5 times. The reason why I wanted to do that was
Randy likes garbage.
no. He just they take different. They take it from all over. So scrap mill. You know, I don't know why Randy's Recycling likes it, but let's just say scrap mill and
St. Louis.
all right, so St. Louis. Is that MI? No, that's Michigan. MS, I think. No, that's Mississippi.
That's Missouri.
Yeah. What is Missouri? Oh crap.
It's MS.
No, that's Mississippi.
Mississippi is MIS.
There's 2-letter abbreviations for everything. I don't know the states as well. You had to say. That's Massachusetts.
Right.
If I can pronounce it.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, don't start that, Emma. Don't be. You know, just because you can't pronounce it. I was gonna say that Michigan is MI, so I don't know. Whatever. So we'll just say St. Louis. I'm not gonna. So we know where St. Louis is. So scrap mill. Kentucky. So.
But we do have a scrap mill, though.
We do.
We do.
We do.
I said we do have a scrap mill.
Yes.
I'll tell them we're gonna go for a worksheet.
Oh yeah, whatever. No, whatever. Okay. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. A lot of my streams get people in Run 8, so that's cool. That's always cool to hear. I wish Run 8 realized how many people I get into Run 8 instead of thinking I'm turning people away from Run 8 because, you know, just because it's not for me anymore doesn't mean it's not for other people. So, but anyways, you know, live and learn. But no, I'm focused right now. I mean, if Run 8, as I was saying the other night, I don't want to. This isn't about Run 8, for one. So, I mean, everything I'm doing right now tonight has really not. I know I've mentioned Run 8 a few times, but this really doesn't have anything to do with Run 8. The RTS has always been. It's never always been with Run 8. It's only been with Run 8 the past 7 years or so, but it really hasn't been since version 2 came out anyways. It's slowly lost its identity, but I've always had the dream alive that eventually one day I would get at least something going, and now this is where I'm headed. If Run 8 comes up with the route that really... I miss Run 8, quite frankly, but if something comes up with Run 8, then the right size route, for example, something a little bit smaller would be nice. I've already said that, then I will certainly strongly consider it, because it is the best train simulator on the planet. But until that time comes, I've got some of my own ideas, and this is the start of it. So, anyways, as I was saying about this, the reason why I wanted to focus on these ones here, it's easy to have a waybill generator simply randomly pick out numbers, but there's other values to consider. You can pick out a bunch of numbers and doesn't really mean anything, but what you can actually do, instead of just having and I think this was in Run 8, I think or not run 8, sorry. No, I got run 8 on the mind suddenly. What was in RTS, I believe, was a value, but the value was the way it had nothing to do with industry. I didn't have shippers and consignees listed. I actually had originate. What the heck did I have? No, I had tags. I believe I just had tags. I can't remember exactly. It's been a little while since I've been into the actual data and code, but I believe I had the shipper and consignee codes, but they were related to tags that were used in Run 8. What I did have was a number beside it. So normally the idea there is okay, so they ship on average, they would ship 2. So this is basically on average what they would each one of these guys would ship per waybill. So you could actually, on one waybill, you could have as many as 2 cars, and then it would randomly this would become a multiplier, or it would become a strength. So if the total sum of, if I was to do the sum of everything in this, so E2 to E14, then I would get 20, let's say. When you take this value, so here's so this is like a quantity, right? You getting this so far, buddy?
Yep.
All right.
Completely, yep.
Completely, awesome. Well, I know you can get this stuff. So what happens is the probability percentage, or the probability of that waybill being called, is directly correlating to what the quantity is, which is nice because it actually, every time a random number is called, and of course this becomes a much bigger database, but the probability comes up, because if it's truly random numbers as opposed to patterns, it will actually call waybills that will match the quantity probability, although random will give you a strength and all that other stuff. So probability here would be equals E1 divided by, let me see here, I want to anchor, man, it's been a while. No, I don't want to anchor it. Do I want to? Yeah, I want to anchor it. $E, these are anchors, the dollar signs. 15, I think that's what I want. Nah, it doesn't like that. E1 didn't like that. Why doesn't it like that? Really? The quantity is a text. Oh, that's, yeah. It expects values, see, so there. Let me, now I'm testing it. So what, see what it's doing? So for this, the probability then becomes, and you in percentage, you know, you've done percentage, right?
Yeah.
So this is a 10% probability of getting this, but this is up to a 15% probability because there's 3, whereas all these are just 5, so there's your 10% again. That's great for just basic stuff, but I don't want this to be just a basic random number picker, even if it's a good random number picker. Cool. So the probability is great and the quantity is great, but I don't even want to go there. Instead, I want to go with a minimum value, a maximum value, I don't know so much about a minimum value is necessary. Now, what that could mean is for every time there's a call from a particular industry, would they always ship more than one car? So yeah, you could keep it as minimum 1, maximum 3, and whatever, you know what I mean? So now it's, instead of just calling that probability every time, you're now capping off the maximum to the consignee. The consignee is who's actually figuring out what the demand is. What makes it really interesting is where you're getting your supplies from. If you're getting it from several sources, and you're trying to restrict how many cars you're getting into a plant at once, then that becomes really complicated as to how many you might want to call. You can even have a group, like a group of how would you say here? I mean, I'm just trying to, and this is how I'm visualizing it. For example, let's say for example, and Randy's recycling is a really good example to start out instead of starting off here. So Randy's recycling, I'm not too sure why it would source particular more than one. You know, I mean, it recycles, let's say, I mean, most scrap places are pretty much generally all the same. They're just taking as much scrap as whatever they can send them. Which is another thing too, because sometimes it's just a matter of you know, what can you send me, basically. So a scrap mill's probably not so much you know, if it's a particular component, like let's say for example, I don't want to mention the industry I work for, but we source particular like machinery parts. We actually source, you know, and don't mention any names. You've heard the names, but you know, we source stuff from Washington, Indiana.
Walla Walla.
Emmett, I told you not to mention anything. You don't listen, do you?
Nah, I don't listen.
No, you don't listen. I just said don't. You know, don't give any details. You know, it's information that I'm not supposed to be giving out, as far as where I work or anything like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's confidential. I'm not supposed to be giving that information out, just because you know where I work and some of the places that I get to. So we get particular components, and I won't say any more. Actually, I don't think my son probably knows more about it, but let's just say that there's a particular component for something that comes out of a certain area, and then there's some that comes out of Europe, but let's say, and we don't even have a rail connection, so, but let's just say we were to bring in from by rail, I mean, because we're all third-party stuff anyways, but let's say we were bringing in from rail, we were bringing a certain component that created a machine from Washington State, and then we also brought in another type of component that came in from Indiana. We wouldn't be going to 5 different places. They would all have a specific component that was needed, and I suppose that would happen with the auto industry. I suppose it's sometimes hard to visualize because I don't have enough. It's kind of weird. I don't have enough, and a lot of people who, especially rail fans or anybody who's really on the outside, have a difficult time trying to figure out why somebody gets something from somewhere. Why is somebody getting this? What's coming into that? And if you spend too much time on those details, you get too anal, and then you lose the fun aspect of it. So let's say, for example, let's just assume I realize these are scrap mills. Let's say the minimum is going to be 1. The most that they would ship at one time is 2. But let's say in this case the and I don't know how the best do it except to have it in the shipper file and the consignee file as opposed to the waybill file itself. But I think the shipper would have a limit as to how much it could ship at a time, and the consignee would have a limit as to how much it would call at a time. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, there's times where it just has to wait, and you can only process what you can process, and the rest stays in a yard, or until it can take it. So, but I want to go further than that. So, minimum and max is interesting because then you're actually picking a random number. Let's just say I don't know. We'll go with 4, just to make it really interesting. And now I'm not copying I'm copying the random value, but I am actually how do I want to do this? Actually, I want to change this. No, I don't want to change that. Never mind. So what I'm doing here, I'm going to go plug that off over there. I'm going to copy this with just Control C. Now you know Control C and Control V, right?
Control C, Control V.
Yes. Okay. Well, what there also is Control Shift V. That ain't it. That didn't work. Why didn't that work? Doesn't. Okay. There must be. Okay. So paste oh, it is paste values only. Okay. Control Shift V. All right. Watch this. So I don't know if you caught that or not, but see how it's 0.0683? When I do this, notice it's there, but notice this has changed.
Yeah.
Notice that this one's still staying the same. So even though it is still generating random numbers, now, and this is why spreadsheets are really a cool way of testing things. So if I was to do Control C and Control V, like say I was to do this, and I was to paste a bunch of these, and I kept doing what? See how they're changing? What I'm doing is I'm pasting the value. Instead, so see the numbers. You look at the above A1 there. You can see the numbers are changing, but then down here there's the formula. It's actually doing the formula on those ones, whereas the others it's not. Well, it is for that one, but let me just copy this one here one more time. So that's really low. Alright. So then now that it's done that, you can, you've got a minimum and a maximum, right? So 1 to 4, let's say. Well, how do you take a random number and basically do that? You know it's a minimum of 1, it's a maximum of 4. Means it can be anything between 1 and 4, right? Okay. So what you do there is you integer it, so it's you know, it's basically just trying to think of how I want to do it. I was gonna say F. Yeah, let's try this one. F10. I don't know if this, and this is why I always like going into a spreadsheet first to come up with ideas, because then it allows me to think, okay, well, how do I do this? So I got an integer here, times it by F10 minus. Do you like this stuff, buddy?
Yeah.
Oh, you do. Okay. Oh, it says not applicable. All right. Why not? Wrong number of arguments. Oh, really? Why am I putting I'm not trying to do. Oh, okay. Integer. Oh, okay. Okay. Gotcha. Oh, I see. So what I wanted to do was put that in there, and then so now I want to put G10. So notice how the colors are changing.
Yeah.
So that's basically going like that, and that's not what I want to do. So what I wanted, I don't think that's what I want. Well, that's really weird. That's not how I expected it to go. What am I missing here? Oh. Do I have to do... Oh, okay. I believe it's... Have you done order of operations, buddy?
No.
Oh, okay.
As I remember now.
No? Okay. So with the algebra there, what's happening is it's multiplying G10. I believe what happens is it always does multiplication before it always does multiplication and division before addition and subtraction. That's the order of operations. But when you put a bracket, the bracket means it's going to do what's in the bracket first. So you're forcing it. Now I don't know if that's going to work. And it looked like it didn't because my logic is faulty. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get that random number to plop me up a little bit here. So 46%. Okay. I know I'm there. I'm just trying to think of that. I'm trying to think of how I'm going to get the minimum and the maximum. I want to go 33% of the way, but I want to be an integer. So F10 minus E10 is going to should give me 3. Right. So 33% of 3 should do it. I'm not too sure why I'm not there, although 46%. Let me go a little bit higher. And then, oh, okay. It's just not high enough, that's why. So when I go to 16, ah, I see. Okay. Oh, I see. There's still a 0 there. So what I want to do is I want to add this, the single digit of 1. That gets rid of the 0. So now if I bring it down to 4, yeah, that was exactly what I wanted. See how low that is? That's only 14%, so it's going to call 1. 46% is going to call 2 because it's it's not quite over 50, but it's getting up there. 6% still low, so it's going to give 1. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, so in other words, what's happening is the reason why this is calling 2 is because 1 to 4, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, I guess it would be. It's always going to be at least 1. Yeah, I don't know about 4 to 1. Hang on a second here. I got to think about that. Yeah, I no, it'd be fine. So you get you're basically you're either gonna get you're breaking it from 1 to 4. You're breaking it into 25% each. So because it went over the 25% mark, it went from 1 to 2, which is at 33. But as long as it didn't go like this one here, this one here, if I put this one in here and I plug the value, let's say I plug it to this one right down here, I bet you that should give me 3 on the side. Right now it says 1, right? Watch this. Yeah, see how that gave me 3? Mm-hmm. The reason why is because it was up there at 75 or below 75 but above 50. So if I keep going and eventually, oh, there we go, here's one right here. I wanted to test this one out to make sure. So if I paste that one, it gives me 3. I don't like that. I want it to I don't want it to max out that high. I am not 100% convinced on that. To me, 93% should have gave me 4. You know what I'm saying? It's almost saying you got to be at least 100 before you're going to get it. So I got to work on that. So these are the things you work on. But at least we're, this is how we're brainstorming ideas. If I was to do this, if I was to go right into programming without doing this work, I wouldn't have a freaking clue as to how to do it. I mean, I could keep testing, I could keep writing code and saying, okay, it's not giving me the data that I want. This here is actually allowing me to prototype the data so I can test theories as to how I want this to manage. So +1 is great. It doesn't seem to be working as much as I want, so there's a faultiness in my logic there. I'm just trying to figure out where that is. Integer of 3. I got +1 in there, so I'm not too sure why it's not giving me the I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll try that. He's saying it's F plus E. So instead of because okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I'm always going to have 3. You're right. Perfect. Thanks. See, that's cool. Did you see what he did?
Mm-hmm.
It's plus E. So you're getting I'm just wondering. The only thing I would want though is the minimum to come into play. If it was say 2, then I'd have to have it another way, but that's okay. I think if I go plus, then that should give it to me. See how this goes. Oh crap, I didn't want to do that. Okay, I'm going to undo that, undo the next one, I think. I had the formula over here. Okay, good enough. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Okay. Actually, let's try another one here. Minus E13. Just out of curiosity. Now, see, that's okay. Minus E13. Minus. I don't like that at all. Ugh. I probably screwed that up more by putting the minus in there. I didn't like how that was looking. Getting bored yet?
Nope.
So FE, I put the minus E in there, but I didn't like. I see that minus 1 and 0 is so I got the integer of the percentage. Normally I put a plus 1, and I had that before, except I was getting too high. See, then I have a minus 1 because it's 6% the integer. I believe they should be. If I do it without the inner brackets, it's going to multiply. But that's something I can work on, and doing it on live streams. Probably not the best, but I appreciate the help there. Yeah, because here I'll show you what happens here. What are you doing? Biting your nails?
No, it's got Hank now.
Alright. So if I have the inner brackets, if I take the inner brackets out, now I got the zeros. Let me plus 1 again. Okay, let me take the plus 1 out, because that's too high. Okay, that's looking better.
What happened if we did plus 0?
I did. That is plus 0.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just trying to figure out. So it's actually multiplying G and F first. So it's multiplying the max. Okay, let me play around. Actually, that does look good.
+0.
No, there is no plus there. Normally, a lot of the integer commands are random. You have to do it to get it to go. You have to get a +1 in there because it takes it below the solid value. But what that's actually doing is it's getting the percentage off the max is what we want. It's just the minimum. So in some cases here, say for example, let's just for the sake of argument, I'm going to put 3 on all of them. That's where I run into problems. This is why I had the bracket to begin with, because what I wanted was I wanted a percentage of the differential between the two, and you have to get the differential before you can multiply it. Works good for a max only, but when you put a minimum in there, then all of a sudden it really the minimum usually you just do a +1 anyways. So that plus E10 is actually the +1 to get it up there. But anyways, I'm not gonna go too much further with that for now. Anyways, it's a start, and then I can build on it from there. So there's a lot of ways in which we can go from there. You have the random number that's calling the total values, and then you have the one that actually picks the values or the number of cars. So the waybill itself is being picked randomly. The other thing that's pretty cool that you can go into as well, and running out of room because I have to go into more columns actually. Let me just take this out here, which is the result. I could hide the column, but that's okay. So one other thing to look at as far as an industry, there's a couple things. How often does an industry what's the average time an industry calls for new supplies? It's something that's not really thought too much in waybill generating, but it's something that is realistic as far as the demand. It's one thing to call numbers, but you can also go so far as to saying, well, okay, let's say for example, one reason why Randy's Recycling might have more than one supply is because of more than one supply is their demand might be more than the supply that they're able to come out. Like for example, I'm just thinking on average. What's the recycling place in St. Catharines? We see.
Oh, I forget the name of it.
No, it doesn't matter the name. It doesn't matter the name. What do they do? Okay, we know one place that often, almost every day, ships 2 boxcars. It used to go like 2 boxcars, 1 gondola, 1 tank. Almost.
Sometimes we have 2 gondolas, but very rarely.
Oh, okay. But see, there you go. So, I mean, these guys are shipping by truck as well. They're doing all kinds of things. But the demand for the rail, which would be the consignee, which is Randy's Recycling, the scrap mill can probably do quite a bit, but then again, it may not be able to create pick up. It's a matter of supply and demand. So supply is basically, okay, well, we got a place that can do so much. If I was to think on lines once again, where I work, for example, let's just say, certain machines or whatever would be required You've got one plant that seems to get a bunch of machines all the time, whereas other places may only get one once every 3 years. Now, I mean, that's a little bit bizarre. I mean, for what we do, it's totally different. But let's say, for example, let's say the one place, like I don't know what the hell it was. It could be. I don't even know what the place is that ships the boxcars, for example. They have 2 bays. They ship 2 boxcars a day. I don't even know if they receive or load. I don't know if they empty them or they receive them or what the hell. The distribution, I have no idea what they do. But that's all they can basically produce in a day. So that's the only supply they have. So that's where I get the whole minimum and maximum thing. So what I would also bring forward into it, if I was to think as far as oh, what do you call it? So average calls. How many times is it going to call the railroad for service? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So the average calls could be a value that, for example, I'm just trying to think of how I would do the value. You could have it as average calls per year. You could have it as a percentage of a percentage per year.
Could be average calls per month.
Average calls per month. Yeah. And then you could. It doesn't matter. Actually, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be month, per year, because then you can work it to a percentage. They're not going to get. Well, I mean, they could get more service more than once a day, but it's kind of unlikely. But the average call could be like, each day a month. It could be, yeah, it's. I mean, if that was the case, if it was going to call 100% of the time, then that would be an average call of 100%. If they work 5 out of 7 days a week, then now you're looking at. See, the trick here is, when you're working 5 to 7 days a week, do you want to go so far as to say average calls per Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is possible. You could go that way, actually. It makes it very complicated. You can do weekday, weekend, all kinds of crazy things. But you can go like something like this. So your average. Here's one. I'll adjust this in a minute. So you have your average. And of course, I mean, this gets, once you start putting a name to something, all of a sudden everything becomes crazy. Because you're identifying something. So a lot of times I can even go so far as to say, let's see. Let's say, and I know I just put a code there. And there's a reason why I did that. So you see what I'm doing. So now, see, now I don't have to be so creative with knowing what everything is. But let's say instead of Salt Lake City, let's say my consignee is on the map that I'm doing. Okay. So now here I'm not defining a particular track because the map doesn't exist. So I'm keeping it as a 3-letter tag for a location. Here I'm now going to assign it a number. Well, I don't know why I did that, because I can just, here, we'll just leave it like that, that's fine. Okay. So now what's happening? You see what's happening here? I don't know if you're noticing that. See these numbers? Let's say the particular yard that I'm simulating, or the map, is going to have a service area with 7 industries. Now you're not worried about who's Bob and what the hell are they shipping, because in reality it doesn't really matter. I mean, yes, if you want to simulate a prototype, then it matters, and this is where I get stuck on, because I don't necessarily know all the actual logistics involved. I know a lot about logistics, and I can think about how my company that I work for, their logistics works, and when you have experience with certain industries, you know, and then you can go ahead and go with you know, like different, like Phoenix, Boston, Detroit. I'll put Toronto in there. Niagara Falls, I don't know. Buffalo.
New York?
New York City, sure. Okay.
I like New York.
Well, see, the little smaller towns like Niagara Falls, they're not going to take as much.
Buffalo really take
Buffalo's in there. Yeah, whatever. They're bigger.
Yeah, probably right.
But so now a place like, say, let's just do St. Catharines, which I already did there, which kind of ships minimum 2. You know what I mean? Niagara Falls might do the same, but I'll do it. Actually, I'll put Niagara Falls, Ontario. So a place like there might have one per day. You know, it gets really weird because a lot of times it really doesn't matter what the freak the day is. They could be any day. So I'm not even sure exactly. Do you know what I'm saying? Like take for example, I'll give you a perfect example. And this is where logistics gets really interesting and trying to simulate what can happen. Do you remember the I don't recall if we were rail fanning down that little small yard. Remember that little industry that had that picked up transformers every now and then?
Oh yeah.
Very rare.
Like every like 7 months, 6 months. Like
oh yeah, exactly. So instead of having what you could do is you could really go ahead like I know there's specifics here, but you can have your average Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and that they don't work on those particular days. Maybe so I'm going to go with average here instead. And I'm gonna switch this around. I'm gonna go ahead and like I may get anal and actually go ahead and specify a position, but let's just say that these places can do it any day of the week. And I know some places that I work, they like shipping on the Fridays. But I may not, like I said, I may not go that far. So something like that. So some of the bigger cities might have a little bit more, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, once again, a smaller town with less, now I'm getting into less industries, but this is all about where we're actually dealing with supply and demand for industries 1 to 7 on our map. Let's say Detroit. So let's assume our map is somewhere in the northeast. Detroit's not too far, but we're gonna pull in a lot of supply from them. So now we're going like 0.7. So that's like 70% of the available days. It's going to call something. It may not call it every day, but that's pretty much it. If it's gonna on average, if it's gonna call one day, I guess it's okay. But let's say for something you get this rare one, this rare gondola that shows up. What do you say, like once every 7 months or something? And then all of a sudden you're putting a really goofy average in there, like 0.01 out of 100 days. Yeah, we can go that far.
Yeah.
So see, now it's going through. It's basically. It's making so many calls, but then it's picking up this value first and saying, okay, well, you know, how many what's the total it's going to be, how many calls is it going to generate per day, how many new calls is it going to generate per day. So you're basically setting up a demand cycle, but you're not just doing it for yours. And you could theoretically figure out what the shipper and consignees are for all your industries and go that way. But you can also, if you have bridge traffic going through your area, then you can really start getting into the logistics of everything that goes through your area. Yeah. But you don't have to get so specific. Once you're outside of your area, then you don't have to get so specific as far as what's coming and going. Like lumber cars are going to be coming from Canada and the Pacific Northwest, because that's where all the wood is. Coal's going to be coming from places like Pennsylvania. Basically the coal belt.
The Appalachians.
Yeah, Kentucky. You name it. Those things are going to be coming into play. So that's where what gets interesting is you start applying these values, and then suddenly this is why, if I was just to go in to program it right now and not brainstorm and think about this is the heart and soul of it right here. This is what's really going to determine how it is. If it's just going to be a random car picker, then it's not going to really facilitate the supply and demand that I'm trying to achieve. It's not going to, and it's really going to mix things up. It's going to make industries behave like they should, but the industries themselves are going to, they're going to be predictable, but they're also going to be random and varied enough that things change. It's not going to be all the same, especially when you're dealing with so many particular calls across your entire system. The more data you give it, the more opportunity it has to decide what to do with it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I counted up all those cars, and it's precisely 60 cars in the maximum.
Oh, there you go. So that's what you would have, average coming in and whatever. But then again, see, this is where it gets interesting, because that might be, let's say, for example, we do the 70% thingy for most of them.
Those ones and zeros there, that's how it's all ones and zeros, the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like the week thing.
Yeah.
It reminds me of binary code.
It is.
Yeah, it kind of is.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Binary is truth and false. That's a true false table. That's a true. They call them truth tables. So that's exactly what it is. It is binary. That's what a computer does. Everything is on, off, everything. And to generate this number, you get like 256. Like, so for example, have you ever explored the bits and bytes and how they work and all that other stuff?
No, not really.
Oh, okay. Every little letter, let's just say that's 1. That's 256 bit or to ASCII. Sorry, it's not 256 bit. It's usually, you have 8, 16, 32 bit, 64 bit. Actually, the operating system right now for, I believe, 7 through 10 of Windows is 64 bit, x64. And what happens is, you get a bunch of bits in the row. An 8-bit, for example, which is some of the older computers, would have something like this. I'll show you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's on 55.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna end this very shortly, but I'll show you what this is all about. So this is an 8-bit byte, or yeah, 8 bits is a byte. Sorry. Yeah, it's been a while. No, I had it right the first time. So you get your 8-bit computer or whatever. This is older technology. I'm trying to remember how this works now. What you would do is you would take, what was it, I-21 times it by 1 plus J21 times it by 2 plus K21 times it by 3, L21, see all the different colors? Times it by 4 plus M21 times it by 5 plus N21 times it by 6, and then
N21
Q21 no, O21 times it by 7 plus Q21 times it by 8. Okay. Watch this value right here. No, that didn't work. What did I do wrong? That should have gave me a hell of a lot more than that, but it didn't. Times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5, times 6, times 7, times 8. Alright, did I screw something up? I-21. Am I on 21? Yeah.
Maybe you're supposed to times it by 11.
No. It's been a while. That's 28. That doesn't make sense. Well, that part makes sense. Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't do P yet. That's why. Why did I do Q? There's your problem. The formula was wrong. Alright. No, that's still not right. Yeah, IJKLMNOP. It should highlight which ones. Oh, see, the thing is, it pops in. I think it's a weight.
Did you times the Q by 9 though?
Oh, wait a minute. I'm. Hold on. Huh?
Never mind.
No, you don't have to do that. No, I'm totally screwed up on something. 36. That's at 36. I don't know, man. It's been a while. I'm just trying to think of how the hell that works. You got 256 bit. You got 0 to 255. That's a 30. That's 36. That doesn't make sense to me, anyways. Well, so much for me to figure out, because I thought that was 256. Unless 256 is a double, which that could be. That could very well be the issue right there. So you actually have more than what. That's probably what it is. So if I kept on going, which will take forever, but basically what happens is, let's say, you know, to get the 36 in there. So let's assume this has got 16. Yeah, it's a 16-bit instead of an 8-bit. I think that's an 8-bit byte, which, you know, can only get you up to 36, whereas the other can get you to 256. I think how that works. It's been a while. So to get 1, you do that. So you turn bit number 1 on, right, and that gives you 1. That gets you 2. That gets you 3. See that? That gets you 4. That gets you 5. That gets you 6. Notice how it went to 11 there for a second? That gives you 7. That gets you 8. Notice that one staying on?
Yep.
9. Notice that's still staying on though, huh?
Yeah.
You see what's happening now? So instead of computers don't count like we do, where we use a 10-based system, whereas, you know, actually it goes to 9, it goes to 10. It's actually counting ahead, bit by bit. Electronics and the integrated circuit all, see, now it's 16, but see now these ones, so these higher ones are coming on. You see what I mean? Until eventually you count up all the way up to 36. What would happen is, if I had 16 of them, you can get up to 255. The reason why you have that many is because they have something called the character ASCII. They have ASCII, they have ANSI, they have a few other ones. I don't know if they're still in place. But what happens is, these numbers represent what the value of the character is going to be. So the letter B has a certain value, the letter C has a certain value, the number 0 has a certain value. 0 is not necessarily 0, 1, 2, then there's little symbols, there's all kinds of different things that they used to use for particular bits. But all this information is stored on microprocessors. So you got memory, you got gigabytes, which is, you know, I can't remember. Megabytes is 1 million, gigabytes is 1 billion, I think. I forget how the numbers go. I don't do the computer so much as I did the programming, but remembering exactly what it's, there's terabits, which it's beyond that. So everything multiplies. But that's the computing power. That's to put every little 1 and 0 is actually every little pixel on your screen. So that's what that's all about. But yeah, that's computers. Computers are just electronics. It's switches. It's switches that turn something on and off. It's kind of like that flashing red light over there, or your computer with the LED flashing on and off. That's basically 1 bit, basically telling you, hey, you know, turn it on, turn it off. It's you look at a clock, the segments. The segments of a digital clock, for example, like it's 12:04 right now. If you look at those segments, you can count up to each digit actually has An LED digit has 7 segments. Did you ever notice that?
Yeah, I did.
See, it just changed to 5. So the electronics knows that after 60 seconds goes by, it knows, and the timer circuit is what keeps track of the time electronically. It will change that 4 to a 5, and it will turn on or turn off those segments. But anyways, getting back to this, that's educational. Hopefully they teach you that in school. But anyways, you never know. Sometimes you have to learn these things on your own, and then you just test different things. But the whole thing, part as far as average, it gets interesting, because then you have this once in a blue moon thing that comes around. If you do it on a daily basis and you decide to call this on a daily basis, what ends up happening is, if you were to call it on a daily basis, you wind up getting a very unlikely possibility of it ever calling, but at least it gives you that possibility, if that makes sense. But often what's better to do it is to, if you call it on 1 every 100 days, what's usually the best way of doing it is going through your entire industry database and deciding when is the next day I'm going to call. So if most of these are going to be today, maybe tomorrow, every day, whatever the case may be, or whatever the weight is, you could have average 0.9 or whatever. The likelihood that you're going to call today is good, or whatever. Or if you call every day, well then, you're shipping every day, then so be it. You're going to see 2 boxcars come out of the same place every day. I don't know if every day's like that, though. We assume that it is, but we don't know that for sure. We know the tanks don't run every day. We certainly know the gondolas don't run every day. It's all about supply and demand. But it's interesting. There's ways of looking at it. You can go through the entire database on a day-to-day basis, or you can just basically assign when's the next day that this is going to call, and then you've decided when it's going to call. Now okay, on this particular day it's going to call so many cars, because we've already determined how many cars the average between the minimum and maximum is, and now you have it all set up. Make sense? Yeah. So I think it'll be interesting to work out. So we'll work it from here. But it's good to do this thing. Now you figure out. But then it's like, okay, well, am I going to do the whole network? There's a database that's available out there that actually does a pretty good job of showing locations called OPSIG. Some of it's old, some of it's new, some of it's whatever. But if you're going to represent a certain location, you don't necessarily need to know what the commodities and what's coming in them. As long as you know what, roughly what's going to be there and where it may ship to, then you know. So, anyways, hopefully that's kind of educational, or at least a start. But it doesn't really go too far. But this is this kind of thing you have to figure out. So at least we're thinking about things. What do you think, Emmett?
I like it.
You like it?
Yeah.
And then once you figure out this is how you want to do it, this is how you want to structure the program, this is how you want to structure the databases, then you basically put the databases in there, you put the code that's going to actually call it, you put all those formulas. Once you've tested the formulas will work, the best place to test them is here. Of course, we got a little bit of work to do on some of them, but that's okay. We'll figure that out. It's not a big deal. And then yeah, trial by trial and error, and then you figure it out. It's a lot easier to do this than debug code. Debugging the code should only be used when you've written something or you have a formula that just doesn't, an ad hoc formula, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, anyways, that's it, guys. So like I said, hopefully it's educational. I'm glad you like it. Hopefully others. I know Mikey was talking about this whole programming. I'm not going to give away too much more as far as RTS. All I'm saying, guys, is that I am going to be working on it more and more. I asked Emmett what he wanted to do earlier, and we couldn't figure out what he wanted to do. You know, he was like, I don't want to do this program.
You mentioned it. You didn't expect me to say it.
I didn't expect it. As soon as I said program, he's like, oh yeah. I said, well,
I had actually forgot about programming for a second. I was like,
well, this is part of the prototyping and design phase and the data phase. I've already prototyped how the AI works. I won't show you it because basically that's my little secret. It's a secret recipe. It's kind of like the Colonel's secret recipe.
Well,
yeah.
He actually does write it on his walls, but it's actually...
Well, yeah, but that's a bunch of crap.
The Colonel's secret recipe is trying to make you fart.
What?
I don't know. I think it's to try to make you fart.
Okay.
I think that's
you know you're on YouTube, right?
I know that.
Okay. All right. I'm sure people want to hear that. Jeez. Kid. But, yeah. This is a start. This will save as my data. So now I've got that data in my Google database, and I can, or my Google Drive, or whatever the heck it is. Every change you make is automatically saved in Drive. The last edit was 8 minutes ago. Okay, awesome. So it's done. It's cool. It's all good. Okay, guys. Have a good one if you're still here. And yeah. So I don't know what else we're going to be doing this weekend. I actually we're going to be away from the computer because it's going to be a nice weekend, and I do not want to be stuck behind. And his first thought was, "Hey, you're gonna watch this on YouTube." I says, "Why do we have to watch somebody else's on YouTube? We can do our own thing." So, anyways, guys, hope you like it. Comments, suggestions, always go to my forum. If you ever have any suggestions or ideas as to what you want to see in regards to the direction I'm going, I'm always open to suggestions. It's eventually going to be about the way I want to take it, but you know, I'm open to suggestions as far as different things, and I'm still open to ideas about Run 8 too. I haven't totally given that up yet, but at this point right now I'm waiting to see what Run 8 does, because I think somebody's gonna like it. Yeah, if it's not you, me.
Shoulders.
Well, the bottom line is I think I'm gonna like it. And if you don't like it, oh well. Well, alright. Okay, guys. We'll see ya. Take care.